All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fried and True. Tonight will be Philly cheesesteaks with a feature cocktail, and it's going to be low key because I am just back from a wonderful evening and day up in Halliburton with my mom and my daughter. So I thought we'd do something easy tonight because I just got back in the city. So Philly cheesesteaks, Philly cheesesteaks are kind of an iconic American sandwich, and I have never been to Philly, but I have made these sandwiches many times, and there's a couple of different ways you can do it, and one of the ways you can do it involves Cheese Whiz, which I actually quite like. However, I thought I would take this opportunity to show you guys how to make your own American cheese. So American cheese is something that you can't actually get in Canada. Craft singles don't count. But in the States, you can actually get good American cheese. It's tasty. It melts great on burgers. It makes amazing grilled cheese sandwiches. It's a real thing, not processed craft slices. So I'll show you guys how to make that, and we're going to use that to make our Philly cheesesteak. The other cheese that we're going to use tonight is provolone, which is the other style of Philly cheesesteak. But before we do all that, I'm going to go on and do our feature cocktail tonight. I had forgotten about this cocktail, and a friend of mine reminded me about it. It's a Sazerac, and this is a very old cocktail from New Orleans. Nobody knows exactly how it was invented. It does call for Peychaud's bitters, and Peychaud, as legend has it, would make a variation of this cocktail. He would serve brandy in an egg cup with a little bit of his bitters to promote his product. I actually don't have Peychaud's bitters tonight. We're going to use Dillon's DSB, which is very close, and this is local and Canadian, and I really like it. So let's get that on the go. This is kind of a fun cocktail. It uses some really old, sort of iconic, legendary ingredients. So normally I would do this in a larger jug, but this is kind of a small drink, so I'm just going to mix it up in a large rocks glass, and I'm going to serve it in a small one. Now I do want to chill this glass while we get started. Let me switch cameras. There we go, so you guys can see what's going on. So we're going to put a little bit of ice in this glass, and you'll see why in a sec. And I'm not going to add it here yet. Okay, so we're going to start this one off with just a tiny bit of simple syrup here. A lot of people will use a sugar cube here. I'm not a fan of sugar cubes when I can use simple syrup, simply because it makes the drink gritty. Sugar doesn't always dissolve reliably. So I just want to coat the bottom of the glass with that. We are going to go with... So this drink originally would have been made with brandy, and then slightly later on cognac. And then after that, depending on where you were in the States, it would either be rye, if you're on the East Coast, or if you were in the Midwest, it would be bourbon. I wanted an opportunity to try this out. This is the Crown Royal rye whiskey, so this is 100% rye. So I'm going to use rye for this, but bourbon would do very well. And if you want to go really old school, you could do it with brandy. I actually don't have a good brandy on my bar cart right now. I have some Remy's that I use to flambe stuff, but I don't know if I would drink it. Okay, so anyway, 2 ounces of that on top of the simple syrup. If you have Peychaud's bitters, they're hard to find. If you do have them, use them. Other than that, 2 dashes of Dillon's. You could use Angostura bitters as well. Pretty much anything will do. And we're going to add some ice to this. So, like that. Now remember, we ice these drinks because, first of all, we want to chill the cocktail. But the other thing we're doing here too is we're softening the drink slightly, because the ice will melt and just slightly dilute this drink a little bit. It takes a little bit of the edge off and smooths the drink out a little bit. And it's okay to let this sit for a couple of seconds too. You don't have to pour it off right away. And then here's the other part where this drink gets fun, is it also uses absinthe. And just a little bit. And this is actually very extravagant, because you only want a hint of the flavor of this It's not really a huge ingredient. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to pour a little bit of this, like say a teaspoon, over the ice in the glass we're serving it in. Just like that. And then we're going to give that a swish so that it coats the inside of the glass. And then we're actually going to pour all of this out. So it smells wonderful. It's just, absinthe is like, it's very hard to describe the smell of absinthe if you haven't had it. However, you literally just want a tiny little bit of it. So this is going to go in the sink. And you can see we just have a tiny bit of coating on the inside of the glass. And then we're going to serve this into the chilled glass like that. And then we'll garnish it. So the reason I say this is extravagant is, absinthe is $70 a bottle. It is not inexpensive. So I'm going to try and find a different way to mist the inside of the glass. But in the meantime, I'm going with the classic method. The classic garnish for this, of course, is a lemon twist. It's not a very good lemon twist, is it? Hang on, let's see if I can get a bigger one here. So like all cocktails, people fight about the smallest little details. And I'm wringing this out, and you can't see it, but I'm actually getting a little bit of the oils into the glass here. And you actually have two choices at this point. You can just drop the lemon twist into the drink, or not. And in this particular case, I like a little garnish, but I'm not going to drop the whole thing in. This is a small glass. I'm going to go with just a little bit of a lemon twist in there and call it a day. And there you have it. I'm going to hold this up for you guys when you can drink a toast. The Sazerac, a pretty simple cocktail, and it, I'll tell you, the absinthe really adds something to this. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, also, one of my favorites, I haven't made these in ages, but just a great drink anytime. This would typically be like a after dinner type cocktail, but I'm doing it now because there you go. And also, just so if you're curious, absinthe has always been rumored to have, and it does have, a psychoactive ingredient. This was the favorite drink of bohemians in Paris and after the First World War, but prior to the Second. It turns out it's not true. It doesn't make you hallucinate. It doesn't do anything weird to you. I have a feeling if you drank this entire bottle, you might hallucinate, but that's probably true of any spirit. Okay, so Sazerac, done. So we're moving on tonight, and we're going to move a little bit quickly. You can see here, I have my steak, and I think I'm going to prep this now before I do the cheese sauce. So Philly cheesesteak is very thinly sliced ribeye. Now this is a strip loin, I know. I happen to have this in the freezer. Traditionally they use a ribeye, but a strip loin makes a wonderful Philly cheesesteak as well. The trick to slicing this extremely thin, you have two options. You can buy a very large, very expensive commercial rotary meat slicer. The home rotary meat slicers that you can buy at Canadian Tire do not work. They are terrible. Don't buy one. I have bought two and been disappointed both times. So if you don't want to, or you don't have the space or the budget for a giant rotary meat slicer, you can freeze your steak for about an hour and try and slice it as thin as you can, which is what we're doing here. So this is a good opportunity to practice your knife skills. I'm going to take the end of this off. This is one of the strip loins that I prepared from a primal cut that I got at Costco. So don't need that. That's probably going to be a dog treat, actually. And I'm going to take a little bit of the fat off. As I said, this when you buy a primal cut, it comes what's called packer trimmed, which means the butcher really hasn't done a whole lot to it, which is what you want, because butchers tend to take off too much fat because people incorrectly don't like it. But because I'm going to be slicing this and frying it up, I'm going to take a little bit of this off because that's just a little bit too much. I'm going to save this to make beef tallow later. But in the meantime, we're going to try and slice this as thin as humanly possible. And I kind of meant to do this before the stream started, but it was frozen solid. So you can see here, I don't know if you can see actually, but we want a really thin piece. Now, a really great trick is if you don't want to slice your meat at all, and I don't blame you because this is a little bit tedious, you can go to any Asian market and buy pre-sliced ribeye, because this is a key ingredient in any sort of hot pot is sliced ribeye. So if you don't want to do this, you can literally go to any Asian market and buy a container of this already pre-sliced and ready to go. And they come up on little rolls or whatever, but it will work just fine. And while this is ribeye, and actually this is a really good strip loin or whatever, traditionally the restaurants in the States, they're not, like, ribeye is expensive. They're not using, you know, like a AAA cut. They're using choice or select. It's still a great cut of meat, but it's not like the high-end stuff, because we're not going to cut this rare. Like, we're not going to serve this rare. This is going to get crisped up, well done. And you can see, actually, I don't know if you can see, actually, but you can get this. This is mostly frozen, so you can slice this extremely thin. It helps, obviously, to have a very, very sharp knife, which you should have. Then you can see we can get this really thin. So, sorry, just give me 2 seconds. I'm going to go through as much of this as I can. So, the other thing about Philly cheesesteak is there's actually 2 things you can do with the meat after this. So, depending on which cheesesteak restaurant you go to in Philadelphia, they will either, if you're doing the provolone version of the sandwich, they'll have an entire slice. They don't do it anyway. They just slice it up and fry it. But if you're doing the Cheese Whiz version, this is actually maybe too thin. This is going to fall apart. I can see through this. If you do the Cheese Whiz version, then the meat is actually almost minced. Like, they'll take this and they'll chop it up into, like, almost like ground beef, but not quite. I'm not going to do that because I kind of like this size meat for my sandwich, but you can experiment with whatever you like. Is that going to be enough? I might as well just slice this whole thing. I think we're almost done. As it thaws out, it'll get harder to slice. But as I said, if you don't want to do this, you can go to an Asian market, buy this stuff like right out of the freezer, ready to go, and you can make instant Philly cheesesteaks any you want. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you don't have several strip loins in your freezer already, then that's certainly a legitimate way to go. If you do buy one fresh, of course, pop it in the freezer for like an hour, and it'll be fine. So we're going to do this, and then I'm going to move on to the cheese sauce. And Friesian, you'll get a kick at. Remind me, Friesian, when we get to the cool thing part of the show, I'm going to make you laugh. I think. Pretty sure you'll laugh. It's a kind of a science geeky joke. But I don't want to spoil it just yet, and I want to finish cutting this up. So let's get this done. Again, having a really, really sharp knife works wonders. They're not expensive. This was a gift, but it was less than $100, and it's a fantastic knife. It has a razor sharp edge. It's easy to maintain and performs as well. This performs as well as pretty much any knife I've ever had. Just going to take a little bit of the fat. There's some connective tissue in there that I don't want in my sandwich. Okay, I'm going to call it there. I'm going to save the ends for something else. Get that out of the way. I'm going to put this out of the way temporarily. We'll get back to that. Okay, so on to do-it-yourself American cheese. And this is fun. So I did a little bit of research because, as I said, I actually tried to like go on Amazon and even just buy American cheese. And you can, but it's really expensive. And it just didn't seem worth it. So I actually started to look at the ingredients. And it turns out that most of the ingredients in American cheese are also in evaporated milk, which I have right here. I have a little bit of gelatin here. Now, I already bloomed this, and I might have done it a bit early. I really hope this dissolves again. Oh, yeah, the Mise knife. I hope that's working out for you guys. That was an amazing knife, too. As I said, that just never fit my hand the way I wanted it to. But I loved the blade and the sharpness of it. So that's gelatin. So for cheese, I have here a mix. This is, and I'll give you the ratios in a second. I'll give it to you now. This is 4 ounces of evaporated milk, and this is 12 ounces of cheese. You do want to use, you can use whatever cheeses you want. However, I do like to use a melty cheese. So in this particular case, the melty cheese is Monterey Jack. You could use Gruyere or Swiss or any of the kind of, I wouldn't use mozzarella, but Gruyere or Swiss would work fine. Depends on the flavor profile you want. I'm going pretty traditional here. I just want a cheddar cheese slice. So this is half cheddar, half Monterey Jack. And now we get to the cool thing ingredient. Now, this will work. You don't need to do any more than cheese, evaporated milk, and gelatin. However, if you get a hold of this stuff, and I've mentioned this on stream before, this is sodium citrate. This is a salt, sodium, and this is what, if you're familiar with, I don't know, have you ever been to the theater and seen that like super shiny, glossy, pourable cheese they put on nachos? This is how they do it. Sodium citrate. This is is an emulsifying agent, and it basically turns any cheese sauce into a super silky smooth cheese. You don't need it to make your own cheese slices, but I don't know, you can get a lifetime supply on Amazon for $20, and it does have its uses. It's quite handy to have in the kitchen. And Friesian, the reason I think this is funny is, by some bizarre coincidence, the chemical symbol for sodium citrate actually spells out nacho. So you can look that up if you want. I actually thought maybe that's how nacho cheese got its name, but it is not. Nacho comes from something else. But yeah, sodium citrate, chemical symbol is nacho. Strange but true. Okay, so let's get this going. It's really straightforward. Get your favorite pan on the heat. And we are going to go with, so we want to boil our evaporated milk. It should only take 2 seconds, really. This will just take a sec. Any questions so far? This is going to be a very straightforward night. This is one of my favorite sandwiches. This is not supposed to be complicated. I think it is 2. I think you're right. I really hope my gelatin redissolves. I'm a little bit nervous. I didn't mean to bloom it so early. Always an adventure. Right. Well, you can see the nacho in there. You gotta kind of like ignore the numbers. Little artistic license. Okay, now I don't want to scald this. I'm Chris. We have our super powered burner here. I want the foam to off. Okay, so in goes the gelatin. if you're doing this at home, I would definitely just... that was one packet of gelatin, by the way. Just the Knox gelatin that you would use, well, for anything, really. And thankfully it is dissolving just fine. So at this point, I'm going to turn the heat way down. You do want your evaporated milk to come to a boil. If you don't let it come to a boil and let it go for a minute or two, it doesn't seem to set right. Yeah, so that's great. And now I'm going to go for, and you can kind of eyeball this. I've been, there are no recipes or rules or ratios that you can find, but I'm finding around like a teaspoon seems to be about right. This has no taste that I've ever been able to discern. So it's not... Ooh, there we go. Again, too hot. Okay, so now off the heat. I'm going to turn this off for a sec. And off the heat, we're going to start adding our cheese. I may put it back on, but... By the way, I've done, not with condensed milk, but I have made mac and cheese recipes where I have skipped the roux entirely and gone straight with just a little bit of water and a little bit of water, a little bit of milk, and a little of the sodium citrate, and it actually makes a pretty nice glossy sauce. Okay, now I need heat. Spoke too soon. Yeah, I'm gonna need to get the heat up here. And again, I'm gonna add a little bit of this. This is just regular old evaporated milk. Do not use condensed milk. That is something else entirely, and it will give you a very strange tasting cheese sauce. There we go. Just need a little bit of heat here. I don't know if you've ever had fondue, but this will end up looking very much like a cheese fondue. The nice thing about the sodium citrate is it will eliminate any sort of grittiness. I mean, I don't even mind that. Like if you make a mac and cheese with a traditional roux and cheddar, it'll end up a little bit gritty. I'm going to hydrate. I think beer is like 95% water anyway. And you can see here, this is just becoming... You can actually see the shine on it. Well, maybe you can't. Hang on. I got to switch back. There we go. You guys can see the actual shine on that sauce. And we're just going to keep piling. And you don't need a lot of sodium citrate. Like egg yolks, when you're doing an emulsification. Anytime you're working with an emulsifier, a little goes a long way. If you're making hollandaise, for example... You can take 1 or 2 egg yolks and emulsify a pound of butter, or 2 pounds, or 5 pounds. Like there's no limit. Now I put more eggs in my hollandaise because egg yolks are amazing. But anytime you work with an emulsifier, you don't need a lot. You can keep adding your base ingredients and going from there. So I'll show you what I do. Once I get this nice and liquid and the consistency that I want, I'm going to keep some of it for the chili. No, it will be hot. The Philly cheesesteak. But what I do with this after, and I'll show you, is I just pour the mixture into, I got them here. This is just a quarter sheet pan, and it's lined with cellophane. So I'll pour it in here. It'll go in the fridge to set. And then I cut it into like craft size slices right through the cellophane and just stack them up. I'll tell you, if you actually go to the trouble and do this, once you start using cheese slices like this, especially for your grilled cheese or your burgers, you won't ever go back to anything else. And you can see we've got a beautiful gloss here. This is kind of an unnatural gloss for a food product. It's not candy, but really like the way this is going. Any questions so far as we wrap up the cheese sauce part of this? Okay then. Just a couple more seconds, and this is just like a wonderful runny. I love this. Look at this. So much fun doing this. I want this just a little bit hotter. Now I'm also going to figure out how to keep some of this warm for the sandwiches later. I'm going to do that in there. Okay, so this is a perfect consistency. This is just going to go here. Turn it down just a bit. Okay, so here's our first tray. And we're just going to take this. And of course, you got to figure out. Yeah, that's going to work. You got to figure out how thick you want your slices. The first couple of times I did this, they were very thick, which is okay. I'm going to try for a slightly thinner one this time. No, I'm only going to get one batch out of this. Okay, hang on. And this is kind of like spreading icing at this point. I'm just kind of smoothing it out. I'm going to add some. I don't have enough here. Don't need you anymore. Well, keep that handy. Where'd my other pot go? Here. So just add a little bit down the side here. This will self-level in the fridge as it sets. So this is going to go, we'll just pop this in the fridge. This is pretty much done. Get it out to the edges. It will sort of level itself off. We got a hole there. And I think next time, so I do this, this is the second time I've done on cellophane. I find cling wrap fussy to work with. And I'm tempted to do this over parchment paper next time. But I decided to go with the tried and true, no pun intended, for the show. So there you go. I'm going to save the other stuff for the Philly cheesesteak. But as I said, this will now level in the fridge, and then when it's set, you just cut it into squares, and you got your own cheese slices. And that makes amazing grilled cheese. Just makes fantastic everything. So this is going to go in the fridge. Give me a sec. And the rest of it is just going to go on the stove, I guess, for later. Stay warm. Okay, so that is making your own American cheese. You could also like pour that entire thing into any kind of mold. You could put it into a block mold, a little loaf pan, like whatever you wanted to do to get it in whatever shape you want, because you can also put that into a cheese block and use up slices of it for whatever you want. Okay, back to Philly cheesesteak. Clean up a little bit here. You can do this on a flat top. It's just me, so I'm going to do this in a big cast iron pan, which we are going to get hot right now. So, ingredients for Philly cheesesteak. You need, well, actually that's a good question. This is optional, but I can't imagine the sandwich without onions. When you order a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, you have two choices. You order it with Cheese Whiz and with or without onions. But onions are so good, I can't imagine not using them. In this particular case, you want to use a white onion, like a sweet onion. I don't know if I'd use a Vidalia. This is just a straight up sweet onion, and I think it makes the best sandwich. Don't use cooking onions for this. They have their place, but this is not it. And we've got our beef here ready to go. And as I said, I'm going to use this beef. Let's switch back to the cooking cam. I'm going to use this beef just the way it is. Now, we are going to want to add an oil or a fat to this pan, both to cook the onions and facilitate everything and add a little bit of flavor. You can use whatever you want. It needs to be a high smoke point oil, so you can't use butter, you can't use olive oil, but canola would work fine. Just because I happen to have a bunch, I'm going to use, of course, duck fat, because I always have a lot of this kicking around. And it has a wonderful flavor and a really high smoke point, and it's really easy to work with. So I'm going to add a bit to this pan. We don't need a lot. A good dollop of duck fat is always right. Excuse me. And this is just coming up timber. So any questions? Any questions on Philly cheesesteaks so far? I know this is very straightforward. I'm going to have to change hydrate to beer or something. It's not quite hot enough yet. The duck fat. Okay, so you can buy... I get mine from ducks. Sorry, I'm not being facetious. I cook a lot with ducks, so I always have a lot of duck trim left over to make my own fat. But you can buy duck fat in pretty much any upscale market. Loblaws will have it. The duck fat's in the pan. Loblaws has it. Farm Boy has it, which isn't too far. And it's not super expensive, but if you cook a lot with duck, like, you're always going to have a ton of it on hand anyway. So I'm only going to make enough for one sandwich because Banana Socks is in Vegas, so it's just me eating. So I'm going to eyeball this. Like, I'm making 2 sandwiches because I want to show you both ways. So I want about that much onion, I guess. Heat down a little bit. Now you want these to soften. You don't want them like deeply caramelized or anything like that. I can make a duck dish. So the problem with doing duck dishes on stream, what I typically do with ducks is when I see them on special or I feel like cooking duck, I'll buy a bunch of them and take them apart. And then you take a duck apart the same way you take a chicken apart, and we've gone through that. And I will confit the legs, but that takes hours and hours and hours and doesn't make for a very interesting stream. And then the breasts, I typically will cure them the same way you would like cure bacon or any other kind of meat, and make like a duck prosciutto out of them. And maybe I'll save 1 or 2 for a fresh dish. So yeah, I could do a duck breast dish. Let me look one up and dig through my little blue book and see what I've got for duck. But buying ducks in little bits is very expensive, so it makes sense. And I like having duck fat on hand, so I always buy whole ducks and then do a whole bunch of things with them. But I could do yeah, the breast is pretty lean. I mean, it's covered in a giant cap of fat, which you have to score, but you can take some of that off. It tastes wonderful, though. And duck breast, of course, you don't cook like chicken. Like, you can serve duck rare, or at least pink a little bit, which is really nice, but that freaks some people out, but it's so good. It's easy to overcook duck. Most people do. These are getting soft, not quite where I want them yet. I don't have to get them completely soft because I'm going to add the beef to this and do it all at the same time. But they're not quite ready yet. So let's just give that a second. And just as a reminder, as always, when I'm cooking not on stream, I'm not just throwing stuff in the sink. I'm constantly turning around and cleaning up as I go, so that when I finish cooking at the end of the night, The only things I have left to wash are the dishes that I'm serving on, and that doesn't take any extra time. You always have enough downtime to clean up whatever's in the sink and put it in the dish rack, or even just rinse it and throw it in the dishwasher if you are lucky enough to have one. Okay, that's just going to take a little bit of a second. We're almost there. You can see a little bit of color on the onions. You don't want a lot. They smell great. So the other thing too is, I'm going to salt these as I go. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt. The traditional Philly cheesesteak, because it's served with Cheese Whiz, or one version is, they don't salt the meat or the onion. Like they don't salt as they go, because Cheese Whiz is very salty. So a ton of sodium in it. So that provides all of the seasoning that the sandwich needs. Now, since we made our own, check that by the way. Since we've made our own cheese, and I know how much sodium's in it, right now it's none, then I can salt the onions as I go. And I'm going to salt the little meat as I go. Seasoning your food, especially with salt, it's something you got to learn. You got to be tasting as you go, seasoning as you go. You don't want to season your. I mean, you can, but you don't want to season your dish all at the end. You should be constantly seasoning each ingredient as it goes in and adjusting it as you go. Once you get the hang of it, you kind of develop like, okay, so this is almost ready. A sixth sense, almost, for how much salt should go in. Especially, and the other important thing is, once you pick a salt, and I like, this is Diamond Kosher, I think. But once you pick a salt, stick with that salt, because each salt is different. And once you get used to a pinch and how much that is with one salt, it'll be different for another one. So pick a salt and go with it. Yeah, Marmite, I like it in certain things. Okay, so now we're going to up on the heat. We're going to add in some beef here. I'm kind of guessing 2 sandwiches worth here, because I want to do a provolone version and I want to do a cheese sauce version. I mean, you can't have too much steak, right? No, it's not enough yet. Almost there, though. I mean, I'm sure all you guys can hear right now is frying meat, but so in terms of while this is frying up, we'll talk about what rolls to serve it on. You can serve it on a sub roll. Traditionally, it's served on like a soft French bread, like I have right here. You don't want like a really crusty baguette. It should be soft on the outside. But I happen to come back from the cottage with a baguette, so there you go. Yeah, I think this is 2 sandwiches worth. I think I got this right. So now there's two ways to do this. This is almost done. You really want, you can't overcook this meat. It's going to be well done. Like, this is, I think, one of the reasons they use Select. And you want a little char on it, and you really want to get rid of all the moisture. So I'm going to let this go for a sec and get the provolone, which I think is still in the fridge. Almost there, almost there. It smells amazing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to divide this into 2 sandwiches worth. And this is going to be my, oh wow, it's going to be just really small. Alright. So this is going to be the provolone side. We are going to like make a sandwich shaped pile here. This is going to get 2 pieces. This is the melted homemade cheese side, and we're gonna do this side like this. I have no idea how I'm gonna get this out of the pan yet. But we're just gonna we'll just ladle this on. Clumsy tonight. And we didn't do plates in the oven because you really don't need to warm the plates for this sandwich. I want to get that nice and melted. And you don't need to toast the bun or anything for this one. I have seriously overestimated the capacity of my bun for this. What do you think, guys? I don't know. So, the way I've seen, you know what I'm going to do? The way I used to do it, I'm not sure I'm going to do it. So on a flat top, I will simply reach in with the bun and like grab it all into a sandwich. Oh, there we go. Kind of works. Nice caramelization on everything. The steak is nicely browned. This actually looks really good. Okay, so that's one. Hope you guys can see that. This is the melted cheese version. Yeah, you know, I'm on a roll though, Kingston. I have not burned myself yet tonight, which is a plus. And now let's see if we can get the provolone version out of the pan in kind of one piece. There we go. Ah, shit, hot. There you go. Melted there. Okay. So now I have 2 Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. This can go, ooh, that is hot. Get this out of the way. Get this burner out of the way. Okay, so short and sweet. We have 2 great sandwiches here. Now the other thing too is, if you want to put something on your sandwich, I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen these sandwiches. So this is the classic version. You don't need more than this. But I have also seen these with slathered with mayo and ketchup before everything goes in. And the other popular thing seems to be this. So this is actually a mixture of sweet and hot peppers. I'm going to try that in a sec. But first of all, I'm going to take a bite out of each and let you know what I think. Oh, Oh, they look good. I'm never going to be able to eat both these. Anyway, cheers, guys. Ow. Very hot. So, it's really good. It's really good, but you know what? I'm not sure it's better than the Cheese Whiz version. This has its own flavor and character for sure. But there's something to be said for the orange Cheese Whiz version. By the way, when you eat these sandwiches, you're supposed to adopt what they call the Philly lean, which means you can't see me, but I'm leaning like over the counter and the plate to eat my sandwich, because if this was full of Cheese Whiz and it's running juices everywhere, it goes everywhere. It's just a very messy sandwich. Really good. Okay. Now we're going to switch to the provolone one. See how that is. It's so good. I don't know, guys. They're both great sandwiches. You know, there's no two ways about it. I love them both. They're just a little bit different. I don't even think I could choose a favorite. Now, I have not tried this hot sweet pickle thing, so we're going to do that right here. And that's okay. It's not super spicy. It does add another dimension to the sandwich. But quite frankly, you know yeah, I mean, craft slices are great. But do try the homemade version, because if you like the craft ones, you'll like what the homemade ones do. This tastes like the banana peppers. You know those, like you get a hot dog stand? The red, orange, and yellow banana peppers, pickled banana peppers, which to me is kind of a one-dimensional flavor. So, I don't know about this. I'm not sold on this as a topping yet. But, so all in all, the provolone sandwich is as good as I remember. But I'm not sold on this. I love my homemade cheese slices. I do. I love them on burgers. I love them in grilled cheese. But I remember what the Cheese Whiz version of this one tastes like. And I think I like it better. I think there's something about Cheese Whiz. There's something about that cheesy, processed flavor that I'm not getting from this sandwich. It's great. But if I had to choose between these two, I would take the provolone one. And I think if I made this with Cheese Whiz, which I don't have here, I think I would like the Cheese Whiz one the best. This was kind of an experiment. It turned out okay. But I'm gonna have to make one of these tomorrow. I've got some meat here. I'm gonna go get some Cheese Whiz tomorrow. Actually, hang on. Okay, I got more cheese in that bite. Okay, let's call this a work in progress, guys. I'm not 100% convinced that's the one way to go. I think I'm going to try the Cheese Whiz version tomorrow and compare it. And I have the feeling that's still going to be my favorite. So, there you go. That's the two. I'm putting it back on the thing. This is the two classic versions of the Philly cheesesteak. If you want, you can Google the history of the sandwich. You can find out all the toppings you get at street vendors. As I said, ketchup and mayo is a big thing. These pickled peppers, they do a chopped pickle relish. which also looked interesting. There's probably a million variations on this. This is the classic. One of these is Gino's, one is Pat's. They're the two original cheesesteak places in Philly, which I've only seen in pictures. Both are amazing sandwiches. Try both. Decide what you like for yourself. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think we're done. Does anybody have any questions about this? I'm going to hang around for a few minutes. I'm going to drink my beer. I'm going to finish my Sazerac. I'm going to try out the sweet pickle, hot pickle thing again, pepper thing, and just generally eat. But I'm here for questions. This is very straightforward, guys. Anybody can do this. This is a fantastic sandwich. I'd be interested to try this with like a brioche type bun, something maybe a little bit softer. I don't know, but I mean, this is one of my favorites. After the Cubanos. Yeah, I'm a big fan. This one's growing on me. I'm not totally sold on it, but it is growing on me. I think I might have under-seasoned this one. Because normally in the runny cheese one, the cheese was just so salty. And I think that because I used my homemade stuff, it's not quite as salty. I don't know. I'm going to have to play with it. And now, 2 huge sandwiches to eat. Alright, I'm going to be here for a couple minutes, guys. I'm going to try the pickle garnish on this one. But, if not, does anybody have... so next week, I think I'm going to do the warm bread chicken salad thing, which is fantastic. It's a meal all in one, super easy to put together. I'm pretty sure that's on the list for next week. So, Canada, great. Thank you very much for playing Whack-A-Troll tonight. I didn't see any interruptions in the chat, so I think we were good. But I appreciate you stepping in to do the mod stuff while Banana Stocks was in Vegas. I'm coming around to this as a topping. It's tasty. It makes it a little bit more like a veal sandwich. Friesian, you will love this. I guarantee it. This is a fantastic dish. And it has tons of schmaltz in it. So I love it. You'll love it. And it's really easy to throw together. It's a complete meal. It doesn't need a side dish. Doesn't need anything extra. And it's super tasty. So we'll do that next week for sure. It was supposed to be this week, but I just couldn't throw it together because I was out of town. So, those peppers are hot. All right, guys. Well, if nobody has anything else, I'm going to sign off. Everybody enjoy their evening. Cheers. Thank you for joining me once again. We picked up one new follower tonight, so thank you for that. And as always, it has been my pleasure. So, cheers, everybody. Good night.